should say, for our very first matchup between Doggo and Machine Soldiers. And we'll get that up below for you and see whether or not we're going to be heading to a more tactical map or a more frag-heavy map. What do you think, Fluke? Where is this going to head between two of these teams?
I mean, it's one of those decisions, and it's one of those things where arguably most of these teams are pickup teams. They're aggressive based around how they're going to play things when they play ranked. And you look at kind of the map pool and you go, well, I feel like we're not going to see any Villa, any Cafe. I think those two are immediately off. Club, I think we'll see with some of the more experienced teams, and it will be easier for them. For the less experienced teams, for these pickup teams, give me Border a lot. I think we're going to see a lot of Border because you usually always do when it's kind of pick-uppy teams in this environment. You know, I'm that's where I'm kind of put. I would be amazed and I would love if we saw a theme park, just because I don't think it's going to happen.
Theme park's so tactical, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so much further out. It's fresh to the pool. People have ideas of how to play it, but that would just be watching a messy game, I think, at that point, and nobody wants to try and roll that dice against some of these teams.
Ooh, and as you said, Villa goes out as the first ban. Not surprising, they're Consulate as well, although Consulate can be quite a good pickup map if you know how to play it, especially with aggressive teams. But Machine Soldier says, no, we're a far more, coordinated team, so we're going to bring it all the way down to Clubhouse. And that is a great map to go on. I think these days, Clubhouse, especially after it got its makeover, a lot of teams now know how to attack it, know how to defend it, even as a default ranked strat, for example. So I'm not surprised to see them take it there. I was surprised to see Oregon sort of make it all the way almost to the end between Clubhouse and Oregon. So I would have liked to have seen that, as that's now been added to the map pool, the competitive map pool. But alas, it is not to be, and we'll head to Clubhouse between Doggo and Machine Soldiers. And I do have to say very clearly, Machine Soldiers are a force to be reckoned with. Last Sphere Wars, we saw them put up a heck of a fight, so I wouldn't be surprised if Clubhouse is their playground. They've picked it between Oregon. They also left Theme, so realistically, it was between Theme Park, Oregon, and Clubhouse in the end, and those are three maps that require a lot of coordination, a lot of tactical utility use, so that's a lot to leave desired as to whether or not that was Doggo's preference or whether that was Machine Soldiers.
Yeah, I'm going to correct myself before then. I was ill-informed to myself. I thought we were playing with the slightly older map pool, but no, Border isn't in the pool. Oregon is the one that's been picked in. My mistake. But either way, I think it's a similar thing as well. Oregon is, yes, once upon a time, Oregon. Now it's had, obviously, a lot more brought to it. It's great to see it back in the listing. Obviously, it is one of those classic kind of jaunts and classic kind of trips in the Siege places. You said the removal there of Villa and Consulate quite early. Theme Park as well being taken out by Machine Soldiers. I guess maybe they were happy to kind of angle it towards Club, angle it towards Oregon, maps that are familiar, but maybe they're a bit more comfortable. As you said, they had a very good run the first time round where they were able to kind of push themselves, and they were putting fights against Sector 1. They were putting fights all the way. I think they ended up in just shy of the 4th place. They were around 5th or 6th in the previous run, which, you know, with all the teams that have kind of thrown themselves in, it is a very, very solid run. And I'm expecting that they're expecting to be able to take this as a kind of quick, solid, you know, if it's not a clean sweep, it'll be close to. Sorry, Doggo.
Well, no, I guess side or bias there is there, Fluke. But nonetheless, I'm getting word that Doggo is starting defense, so that's actually good for them. We would expect Clubhouse to be, you know, predominantly defense sided, you know, depending how you hold it. But there's a lot of operators that, if not banned, can be really, really difficult to work with on defense. So I'll be interested to see the bans on Clubhouse. That can be something that can really sway whether or not it's more attacking sided or defending sided. You know, a Thatcher ban, for example, can be hugely interruptive to different hatches and walls and stuff like that. So that'll be something I'll be looking forward to see. We said before, Machine Soldiers, they're quite clinical. They're quite tactical, coordinated type of team. So they'll be looking, you know, to get rid of something like a Thatcher and then sort of play that real tactical game and wait it out. But maybe they'll change it up this time. Who knows? I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the kind of things about it as well, is when you look at Clubhouse, there are some teams that do like to lead on the attack, especially if they kind of go in with the mindset that we're the better team. Because if you start taking
Mm.
your rounds on attack on a map like Clubhouse, it puts those defenders in an even worse mental state when they go to the turn and a half, because they're like, we're being beat on our defense right now, and we really shouldn't be. It's like taking rounds on your attack on Villa. It's, it's, you're not supposed to be doing this. What's going on? We must really be playing bad right now. It's something that X Crazy used to do quite a lot. Is they would opt for their attacks first. They would try and use these mental games, and I guess starting on your defense is a bit of a swing and a hope. But sometimes, if things really aren't connecting, it can kind of be a little bit more of a nail in the coffin, unfortunately, and make things end a bit sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to bring up the player names before we jump into the matchup, ladies and gentlemen, just so you know exactly who is going up against who on the El Doggo side. We've got Palace, Globy, Chrono, Dickens, and Awesomeish. I believe it's Awesomeish. If I've got it wrong, let me know. Absolutely. And they'll be going up against the Machine Soldiers, and that is featuring the likes of, see, this is the COVID lifestyle, isn't it? You can't load anything on computers anymore. There we go.
No.
KJ, Rakita, Terra, I'm just going to say Cat, and Fox. So those will be the players who will be going head-to-head here on Clubhouse. If I've got their names wrong, let me know in chat. Try and spell it phonetically for me, with the little dashes and everything, so I can slap the Australian accent around it a little bit better than I'm currently doing, I'm sure. But nonetheless, we'll navigate and circumvent the names as we slowly get through the first half of this competition. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the second edition of the Sphere Wars Rainbow Six. My name is Jessica. I'm joined by Fluke. We're just waiting for one person's moss to, load up, as it tends to be with all competitive play, and we'll give you one more sneak peek at the bracket before we jump into the game.
Yeah, you can kind of obviously see how this is all shaping up in terms of the teams. As we said before, we've already listed a couple of ones that are your ones to watch throughout the day based on how they performed previously. At the very, very top, at number one sees TTEU, who are the previous winners, who are top tier players with names that you'll recognize. We'll focus on them when we get to them. I'm sure we'll be seeing them a couple times throughout the day. And obviously, as you kind of go down the list as well, Sector 1, Granite Gaming, who were two other teams that we mentioned, who were two great performances previously and able to kind of bring stuff together. It's the first showing, I believe, for a couple of these teams as well. The names are getting bigger and smaller. I don't know if I'm just losing it this early or if things are just changing very quickly. It's an early start. Obviously, this is why we're having a little bit of trouble getting our players in. It's for Siege to start this early in the morning. It's a bit of a rare treat, I think, for a lot of these players. And I'm going to really just air quotes the word treat for now, because historically we're not morning folk.
I think that's a very big factor, is that a lot of the gaming community, our day starts at midday. Let's be honest. Most of the time, our day will start at midday. We'll end at like midnight, right? If we're lucky. So that's a good point there. So I'll be interested to see which teams need a little bit of warming up. This is why the double elimination is so important, ladies and gentlemen, is you might be just waking up. One of your players who's one of your star support players might just be waking up and their calls might be off for the first game. No problems. Zoom your way down to losers bracket and then zoom your way through it back on up to the winners bracket and, win it anyway. So I don't think it really will affect the teams. The only thing that might affect them is the mentality of moving down to the losers bracket as their first matchup. That can be something that can knock the mentality around, I think, just a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it's good that there is obviously, as you said before, it's generally the best way of having the competition is a double elim. Can double the length of a competition, but it makes sure that it is way fairer, because teams that do struggle to get their kind of heads into the game very early on, they have this second breath. They can go, okay, well, we've been shaken awake by being slapped down to the lower bracket. We can still bring this back. We can just play our game. Now we can play it properly, and we can see where we go with it. Obviously, some teams, it's not the biggest question of will they have a safety net, sure, and it's not the be all and end all, but as you said, it's an early start for a lot of these teams. We've seen it from every echelon, every tier of our esport. Is some teams struggle in their first game, some teams struggle in their first few rounds, some teams struggle in their defense and swing which better way around on their attack, or vice versa. So if they start in a certain way or on a certain map, well, then they've already kind of written their death knell and they're dropping down. So it's going to be a good, slightly better awakening for them, hopefully.
Absolutely. And I think there's also something to be said, and a lot of people might laugh at me for bringing up this point, but whilst we've got the bracket up here, I always find that teams that, sort of zoom through, let's say, yeah, and we saw it in the last Sphere Wars as well, a lot of, 7-0, 7-1, 7-2s, and they zoom through their game, they go up into the next round, and then, of course, they're waiting for all the other games to finish, the closer ones who might go to overtime, etc. They've got a lot of break. And for some people, this is an advantage, and some people, this is a disadvantage because, oh, well, there's too much downtime. So their brains switch off, they become tired. Maybe they start to eat and sort of wind down a little bit too much. And for others, maybe the lack of break is something that really limits them. So this is what I like to see between, different rounds is, well, how capable was a team? Did they slow down going into a second round or a third round because they had such a break between waiting from round 1 to round 2, for example? So that's a real, good mind game to think about. And I guess the psychology behind esports is something I love talking about myself. But let's go with something far more, I guess, intriguing than my psychological findings inside,
No,
double
keep
elimination
going.
brackets.
Give me the full psych breakdown on this.
Oh, I wish I could. Alas, not in the classroom, not teaching like I used to be. Got to cap it off here. But what I am going to say, what do you think about Ying? Will there be a Ying ban or not? Because we spoke about pickup teams, and pickup teams are generally far more frag-like or frag-heavy. I'm not going to say Machine Soldiers is, because what we had seen, they weren't as frag-heavy as other teams. But do you think Ying will become a problem and will therefore replace one of the attacking bans, which could affect a clubhouse ban, because you would usually think, hard-breaching bans are the play?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Ying had this moment where everyone went, whoa, and then it kind of backed off a little bit with the nerf. She's still in a very, very good place. However, I think, as you rightly said, there's bigger cost factors that are involved right now in terms of, especially when you're looking at a map like Club, where you don't want the attacking team to come in with 3 hard destruction on your defense start. That, in this situation of where you're looking at the hatches, you're looking at least having a little bit more fortification down in the armory. You're looking at having a little bit more control, across the jacuzzi wall or across wherever. It's this kind of, in that moment you think, well, Ying's bad, but big gaping wounds is much worse in this transaction. I think we'll still see her removed once or twice throughout the day, but I think it's gone less from this has to be banned, we cannot play against this, that burns ADS and Wamai and whatnot, to, okay, well, in certain places she's not a really, that's a problem we need to kind of fix.
Yeah, absolutely. I can only think of, a few windows even, or I guess maybe even flaws that Candelas might be really useful for on Clubhouse. But you're right. In my mind, I'm thinking 3 operators. I'm thinking Maverick, I'm thinking Thatcher, and I'm thinking Montaigne. On this map specifically, those are 3 operators that can be huge and swing around very quickly in the side of the attackers if used correctly. So I would be surprised if, and I don't want to say it's a waste of a ban, by saying, oh, let's get rid of Ying because maybe you're scared of that being a crutch operator for a fragger of one team. But I would say that there are far bigger fish to fry, for lack of better phrases, than Ying. She does still have smokes, so that is scary on a map like Clubhouse. Smokes can block a lot of line of sights very quickly. But there's a lot of verticality as well. So if teams play right, they can play with C4s, they can use vertical control or deny vertical control if they want to as well. So I think we need to see smarter picks. I'd like to see smarter picks, but we'll see how we go.
Right, and just on those words and just on that moment, we are able to jump into the game. Thank you for sticking with us as we find ourselves in the first game of the day. I like how it shows that it was our names under the fight there. We're playing it. Yeah, we're gonna go into this.
We are going against each other.
I'm going to get smacked, I think is the easiest way of putting this. Machine Soldiers, as we said before, starting on the attack. And the bans that we talked about there is the very important one that we mentioned before, Thatcher. You have to curtail and control hard destruct on this map. Otherwise, everything slips through your fingers.
I'm really happy to see that Thatcher ban and a Maverick ban. I am a huge fan of the Thatcher Maverick ban on this map. Someone is saying my battle eye isn't on Uwu. They should be kicked. Please leave. Generally in matches online, ladies and gentlemen, if your battle eye isn't connecting, it'll say that you're removed from the match by battle eye. That doesn't mean you're cheating. It doesn't mean you're hacking. It doesn't mean you're doing anything like that. It just means that your computer, couldn't quite get the connection to battle eye. Battle eye stopped working as a result, and there was an issue. They're going to finish the ban phase surely so that we can at least get the bans, of which we're following with Echo and maybe a Valkyrie. Good bans there. Probably no need to even bring an IQ except for Electroclaws now. So those are really, really good bans. In fact, one of the favorite ban sets on a map like Clubhouse for someone like myself.
Yeah, it's a very good removal. You look at how much Valk can kind of add, especially on when you're trying to breach across CCTV and you have all that run out space and all that possibility of things to go instantly wrong. We've seen countless times sneaky Valk cameras be the entire end of an attack push there. Also allows you to have a little bit more control around the rest of the top floor. There's loads and loads of places to dig those cameras in to make sure that no one pushes via Jacuzzi, no one pushes via the main stairs. It's a good controlling operator and a good removal. We're going to start down in Church, an Arsenal room, a castle on the board, hints at a certain tall SSG strategy that it looks simple to do, but to pull it off to their level consistently, it takes expert play.
I think the biggest thing about the SSG setup, as I like to call it, and as most have called it now, is that one, it's kind of become the meta. So you've got more opportunity to work out how to counter it, what works against it, what doesn't. A lot of people say a blue rush is the perfect counter. A dirt rush can also work as well. My issue with it is because it's so extended. I think teams spend a long time droning and wasting time, and that's the real value of the SSG setup, is because they're wasting a lot of time trying to clear, and you can go down by level, escaping the drones bit by bit and wasting time. So we'll see whether or not that's what they're going to do. But actually, I don't think this is an SSG setup, because hatches are being reinforced. So this is not. So these castles are literally to block off blue. They're to block off dirt, rightfully so. And where did that sneaky third castle go?
This is an extreme measure. Yeah, this is a very extreme turtle. So they have opted to completely lock themselves inside. The problem that I kind of instantly pull with this is they've been able to completely collapse down. There's no rotation behind the back of AC apart from just to the side, but the side can be caught by anyone that leads in aggressively, as Terra is. They start swinging on someone that's still putting a barricade up. Luckily saved by the cover there of Palace, as Terra is the first blood, but Raketa is able to pick up a quick return, and they are just trying to careen their way into sight. There's one, there's the trade, and it's a 3 versus 3, but we haven't even hit the 2-minute mark.
It's all happening, ladies and gentlemen, and it looks like Machine Soldiers want in, and they want in now, and we're barely at the 2-minute mark, but it's all up to Globey. He's making his way back. He knows exactly where they all are due to the beautiful opportunity of cameras. And the player will go down. Globey will get one. He needs to get 2 more. He knows that there's one firing from nearby dirt. He's going to swing into the pre-fire of Fox, and he's going to go down. And whilst this turtle looks like it might work, there's only one castle and a rotate to stop them from bursting down blue, and Machine Soldiers knew this.
Yeah, that's the problem. Okay, so when you're building a turtle, or when you're building a fortress, you have to think of where your weakness is. And you also have to try and remember that a lot of that, as you said at the very beginning of the round, you said the best thing about the SSG strategy is the time that it wastes across the rest of the map.
Yes.
There was no time needed for them to go, oh, they've castled all the doors. They're going to be in sight. We don't have to worry about anything else. The Jaeger was free to roam, sure, but by the time the Jaeger was, had reached their point and turned around, the entire rest of their team was dead. And they had to try and break back in to just what was, it was a big flaw. It was the Lord of the Rings scene where they run and they hit the grate, and that was that in motion.
That's a beautiful analogy for it. I love it. Nonetheless, Machine Soldiers showing that they know how to adapt and adapt very quickly. I don't think they realized that full turtle setup with the castles was going to be the play. A little bit of a late setup there by El Doggo, so no fault to them. Looks like here, El Doggo aren't 100% sure who's reinforcing what, and that's probably diminishing their ability to get ready as quickly as they need to. A couple of people were probably wondering before, and I was wondering as well, where were the pings coming from? There were no intel operators on the defense. That's because Globy decides to bring bulletproof camera instead of barbed wire, and that's very interesting to someone like myself. So cool to see that addition of the bulletproof instead of barbed wire. But looks like some teas and crumpets are going to be made this round, and we'll see if that's going to be to the demise of El Doggo or to their advantage.
I think bringing 2 bullets, 2 C4s and 1 shield, I mean, it's a particular design. Obviously, it's how you want to be creative with the utility in Siege. It's how you want to bring it to a firefight, but especially no barbed when you're looking at trying to slow people up the garage stairs and you know, they're not really looking at how they can control the space of the game. They're trying to build a defense, sure, but it's so much more than your immediacy. It's more than your hard walls. It's more than the immediate base utility. You've got to think where you can just kind of create choke points, as you have in CS, as you have in Valorant and other games. Siege is a malleable play space, and if you don't slow them entering the building, well, that is what happens. Terra getting the instant opener there against the Kaid, meaning that that wall is now all theirs.
Interesting that the Kaid was the one to hold the garage, actually, given that there was a nerf to his shotgun, which made it harder to be able to hold anything these days. And these lines of sights being opened up here by the Habana will give them instant access to a default plant and also give them a line of sight from the stairs if they want to over onto the cash door. But Fox is going to run straight and get a kill on Globy, and I should say the plant will already be going down with less than half the round elapsed. That's going to be an easy double kill as they run into the bullets of Rakita, and KJ is going to finish it off with the head of Palace, and that's a flawless round in the hands of Machine Soldiers.
Wow, that's the way that... I mean, you don't want things to go accidentally wide swinging into someone else's firefight and having your head taken off through theirs. Collaterals, it's never a great start to the day. A 2-0 is a pretty great start in the hands of Machine Soldiers, though, as they find themselves going to a flawless in what was a pretty flawless execute. I'm curious where their pre-placed drones are, because they seem very confident that they know where everybody is, and they're completely able to take advantage of that.
So I saw 2 outside of garage door. So clearly they're keeping them outside, monitoring the inside situation from outside doors, windows, whatever, what have you. So they're obviously keen on keeping a lot of their drones. Drone economy is very important in this game, so good on them. But you're right, we have people who are just going, this is my job, aka the Sledge or the Habana, and I'm doing it now. I don't need to drone because I know what to do for my job. I know what my step is, and that's to flash the ADS or to grenade the 90 part of Catwalk or whatever it might be. Then, okay, we've got Catwalk, now you can open the breach. I mean, it's that kind of amazing confidence that shows me that this team has scrimmed over and over and over again.
When was the last time? When was the last time you saw a team come to Clubhouse on the defense and not bring any barbed wire? First of all, that's the first question I'm going to put here, because this is the 3rd round now, and we haven't seen a single shred of it. And
I'm glad you brought it up. I really am, because that's amazing to me that you don't bring any barbed wire. Machine Soldiers have been getting the job done in 1 minute. Isn't that terrifying?
Yeah.
Isn't there something in your mind that says we need to slow this down?
That's entirely... There is a pace that is consistently slipping past El Doggo, unfortunately, and what they need to start looking at is ways that they can slow it down. In a weird way, they already tried Castle in the first opener in a very turtle defensive strategy, and that didn't work. So you've got to try and shape the play space. Globy is able to, for the first time today, put them 1 step ahead without an instant trade. So they're in a good start here, and I guess, well, maybe this is the punishment for Machine Soldiers being a bit too confident and cocky as they lose the first blood there. But expect things to quickly start falling back against them. If there was a wake-up call, it's probably that, as the flashes start raining through towards construction. They have the rotation on the angle, they have themselves on the red stairs, and, well, they have a pre-fire, and they have a rough idea, it seems, of where someone is.
That was a beautiful showing there from Globy. That was good that he took the kill on Rakita, because Rakita had been moving in without refragability multiple rounds now, so that's a good wake-up call for him not to be moving in without his other fraggers. Drone will spot out the Wamai. He's in a good spot here, but Globy's over-peaking. He doesn't have a lot of health to be doing that with, and I really love this shield here, because even if they lose control of Cash, they've still got a shield there. And as I say, that Faffy will take out Globy finally. It looks like the Wamai's going to stick his place, but he is flashed, and Fox will take him out. He'll also take out Decans, and that's going to leave the defense in a very, very bad place. Fox will take another head. He'll also take the head of his teammate, but he'll get slapped back by All Submission. Now they know exactly where he is, so the free fires will come out. There's a crouch shot, and he won't hit it. And in fact, it wasn't a crouch, it was a prone.
3 rounds in a row, but in fairness, that last one was generally, I would say, the closest we've seen, in terms that obviously they got the opener, they were able to pull back and not suffer an instant trade on that, get themselves reset up behind the shield, which, as you said, it was a nice placement of that. You want to extend a little bit towards CCTV and Cash. You want to make sure that you have a bit of control over there. Usually it's seen a little bit more aggressive, but this is, for all rights and purposes, a very defensive team, I would say, El Doggo. They don't want to stretch themselves too much, it seems, in terms of their play style. They're happy to be a little bit more solid, a little bit more secure, at least they think, until, unfortunately, Machine Soldiers find them. But I'm going to guess and hope that they try and extend some of those ideas into, say, Blue here. If you think of how they held Blue before, it was just nothing. It was no space there. You've got to have some hand of that. You've got to treat it the same way you just treat CCTV and Cash.
I agree, and it looks like they're going to opt for the exact same setup. So obviously they've dry run this at the very least. They may have even scrimmed it as well, or something that they run in their usual stack when they jump online. So this is something they're very, very sure of. It's obviously worked for them before. I think what they're opting for this time, and you can see the mute jam is going to go on there as well, that won't stop a Zofia charge, which was utilized last time. So really that will only be helpful for the droning. But what they need to be careful of is setting up on time. They've got 5 more seconds. The drone, there are 2 drones in Blue. And this is the problem. In fact, a drone just went past the Jaeger. This is why they know so much. All of the drones existing on the attack have given them fruitful amounts of information. And as a result, they know everything. This is what the El Doggos is missing. They're missing hunting those drones. And now there's too much information in the hands of Machine Soldiers.
It was the quote from Fabian at the kind of top of the reign of that team, where he said, if we lose 1 drone in our prep phase, in our droning phase, we've failed the droning phase. Like, that is it's over, it's a loss. It's such a big bit of utility. It's so often overlooked. And if you're overlooking it as defenders, well, this happens. Terra is able to take out the 1 roamer. The Vigil is gone before even being able to begin spotting their ability. Barbed wire's on the floor! And there's a slight extension into AC. Okay, this is good movements, this is good control. KJ is able to find a kill, but we are in a much more solid state, at least in the internal first few steps, before the collapse came from the opposite side.
It looks like Machine Soldiers here knows what they want to do. They've got the utility for it. I'm constantly seeing flashes fly out, and look at this! Unfortunately for Machine Soldiers, they're looking the wrong way. There's only 2 members of the defensive side left. Dirt is now open. Flames are coming out in perfect rains, and this is going to block off the mute all on his lonesome whilst Decad sits watching from afar. K will surely be able to come in and spot that mute. He does. He takes him out, and now it's up to Decad. He'll get 1. He has a C4 in him. No, he doesn't. He has barbed wire. He can only stop this with shots, ladies and gentlemen, and he can't even do that. And that's a round in the hands of Machine Soldiers yet again. And I can't fret it enough, ladies and gentlemen. Machine Soldiers are looking terrifying. They are looking like soldiers, Fluke. This is calculated. I think what I really want to put a props to is Rakita backed himself up a bit. You know, he didn't quite overextend himself away from his team. And when they knew that someone was in garage, they pinched him. They had 2 garage door and 2 on platform. You can't outgun that. And the same going into Blue. So, wow, a lot of teamwork from Machine Soldiers here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I've kind of been looking a little bit more on how the defense and the mistakes that they're making, but you've, as you said, got to give a lot of credit to how Machine Soldiers are playing. Obviously, they are here to play very, very well. We get that instantly off the bat. Everything is very, very tight, apart from the 3rd round where they seem to get a little bit loose and kind of throw themselves to the wind a little bit and suffered. They were instantly able to go, okay, well, let's not go too hard. Let's not go too far. They're making sure they have everything under control. It may look like, if you're kind of glancing in and not really paying attention to what is going on and why we're harping on about it so much in the droning is they may look a bit callous and reckless, but it's because they're confident that their information on their control of the whereabouts of the defenders is pinpoint. And it is so far. Look at how they're able to pinch the Vigil. Look at how they're able to just take rooms and take space that other teams, have slowed their roll. And even then, where they approach towards blue, they approach towards AC, they knew the barbed wire was there, they knew where the player was, they knew where they had to stop to allow their man to pinch and pincer. Oil pit, it's very, very well played and very, very well paced from them. At the same time, we can kind of obviously look towards the defenders. I think those were definitely positive swings in terms of how they started to adapt their defense. I mentioned barbed wire before. It instantly slowed and stemmed a roll. It allowed them a bit more time, and time is such a precious resource in this game.
Yeah, I absolutely can agree with this. El Doggo needs to stall out the attackers a lot more because 4-0, being a 4-round deficit on your defensive side has got to feel absolutely awful. It's not the best place to be sitting when you are going into your 5th round. Alas, we will see whether or not the attackers can take CC with the exact same speed we saw them do only a few rounds ago. Terra will likely open up some of that garage angle, and you can see people are ready on their drones instantly. There's someone waiting outside. They're ready to go, and they don't really even need to focus on anything else but their droning and what they need to get done.
Yeah, and here it is. More drones, more ferocity as they look towards the people playing above. They have a lot of stock under their control and use it to try and get control of the wall. As you can see, the Kaiids and any relevant mute charges can be dropped and shot from underneath. They still have to get into position, and if they have a roam game, it's not the easiest. Fox, who has been phenomenal on the Ashe as well, technically going 7 kills, but one of those was a teammate. Isn't quite able to, unfortunately, react enough as the Hibana is dropped. They still have the hard destruction. This is a double hard destruction map. You're always going to bring at least 2, but you got to make sure that your thermite doesn't suffer before he can actually get the main wall open. Not sure why they're not trying to apply a bit more pressure underneath where the Kaid claw is. They seem to have a good grip and an idea of how they want to play this, and they're flooding into stock, and they haven't just pushed themselves around into the conjoining corridor to get a little bit more space. The drones are there, so they want to start, but well, unfortunately, that's a Mozzie drone.
Yeah, that's not a good start for the attackers. And even as we say that, an Electric Claw will collect one of the exothermic charges, and I'm unsure. Are they unaware that there's no ADS? And I suppose it doesn't matter now. As I say that, Rakita will take the head off of the Doc, who did collect one previous to this. Unfortunately, a jump into garage is the wrong decision for Palace, and he'll get his head taken off. And with one more exothermic in his pocket, and an Electric Claw. Oh, he baited that one out, and surely a grenade went onto the wall there. It did, so that should have secured that wall for them. But they've actually given up. They've said, we've got control. There's only 2 defenders left. Let's just storm site, and that's what they've done. KJ will take our decans, and there's only one left at the top of construction. They know exactly where he is. Some pre-fires will come out. They will collect a little bit, but those flames are almost perfectly set. Sledge will unfortunately sledge the wall or the floor below, and that doesn't get anything, but Baffy does finish it off for his teammates, and that was a round that should have been done and dusted probably a lot earlier. I'm not sure why Machine Soldiers didn't grenade the person on 90 Catwalk. He still actually ended the round, or got to the close to the end of the round with them in his pocket, so they weren't actually utilized the way they were meant to be. I think they gave up when they realized that the Hibana had died before throwing her flashes, so I don't know if there was an ADS up there. But even so, throwing one grenade to speed up the process would have been my choice, just to see whether or not something was there. Maybe use a Capitao to block, each end of the catwalk and move up together.
Yeah, I mean, in the end of it, it seemed like he just went, I'm just going to swing on this, and did, and it worked. And it usually doesn't. I'll be entirely honest about that. That is not the way that you usually play that, as Jess has said. Bring your utility, bring your grenades. You would burn through with the flashes to get rid of any ADSs. We didn't get the entire glimpse of it, but the last time they played up on Catwalk, there was ADSs. They had the ability to at least burn through some of those. And to be honest, the way it kind of came and Hibana being taken out, I guess they just went, well, I'm just going to swing on this. In a weird way, and I commented on it as it was building up, everything kind of hit a bit of a slow. And maybe they just got sick of standing around and went, look, I think I can win this firefight. I'm gonna. And then did. And then the Legion, obviously, whether it was a bit of miscommunication or unfortunate timing, hopped through the window, as we just saw perfectly in time there, and suffered an ill-gotten fate because, well, at that point, it's much harder to hit the man that's coming up the stairs. They're going to double down for the first time. They're going to try CC again. They were close. They've been getting closer and closer every single round to being able to take some points and make the machine soldiers bleed. And if it bleeds, you can kill it. Let's see if they can try and pull off what is, at the beginning of this game, seemingly impossible.
They've just opted now to open the bottom of garage with the exothermic and do a 4-man garage push. And if I'm a defender right now, I'm saying to my teammates, please God help me, because this is way too many people to be trying to watch. The flashes will come up. They've actually been able to get one of the ADSs. And that would mean that Faffy wants to make an entry here. And there's 3 of them aiming at Globy. Globy had no chance there whatsoever. So shout out to him. And Fox, he said he's going to nuke him. That's what he's done. And he's already in construction. They know that this is a pinch push now. And if you're the defenders, you need to get 1 pick here, at least construction, if you want to be able to hold off any more push, because they're inside.
Oh, that was a clean take there as they get control of the top of red. Now it is kind of falling apart very quickly. There is a huge swing of aggression from the hands of machine soldiers. Pops in through the window, manages to take care of the Finker, but the thermite is there on the cross and the drop shot. Jaeger gets the trade, but it is a little too late. Machine soldiers get themselves the sweep across every single attack round.
A huge shout out to whoever the Kaid is on El Doggos. I'm actually extraordinarily impressed. I know El Doggos haven't been able to secure a single round, but you know, it's those small things that you notice in some of the players, and his ability to have so much map and floor awareness, operator awareness as well, means that he's been able to trick multiple charges on multiple rounds. So shout out to whoever that individual has been. I'm not sure who it was, but you know, maybe someone might be able to point that out in chat for me once we do finally get to that end of the delay. But yeah, that's amazing. I'm happy to see that El Doggos has the foundation. They might not have the complete skill set to put it out in its full veracity, but they've been showing me some really strong things. I would have liked to have seen more teamwork from El Doggos on defense. You know, I'm getting pushed heavily in garage. I need someone else here with me. But, you know, no crossfires, no opportunity for trades. That meant that they were sort of cuddled and turtled on site, and that led to their demise. But we'll switch it around now on match point, unfortunately, for El Doggos. But it means that machine soldiers need to prove they're just as good on defense as they are on attack.
It's one of those things as well, when I kind of look at their setup here for their defense. There is the extension, talked about before, deep into CCTV. They're playing it very aggressive. From what was a partial bit of aggression, they're opening up CC window, and they've set a shield. They are waiting and baiting for someone to try and approach the castle window against Jim. At the same time, they have no information gathering up. So everything that they have is a burn on utility. They have some shields and they have solidity, and they're using that very aggressively to get their information. They're saying, well, we're going to lock off our site, and then we're going to open windows and have shields and hide behind those, and we are going to be our own Valkyrie cameras outside. We are going to be all of our information gathering. And then knowing them, they're just going to swing onto this.
I love that we're seeing Akali. I love, because she is an anti-wall denial operator. That's exactly why she was built as she is. Unfortunately, her weaponry leaves something to be desired alongside it, but she is still a very, very hardcore operator when it comes to wall denial. So that's awesome to see them bring her instead of, another option of going below or what have you. So this time they're able to get the wall open very quickly. This shows that they know exactly what they want to do, but they need to be able to act on it. And unfortunately, Machine Soldiers is doing what we call an outside-in strategy. It's where they hold the site from the outside in with an elongated setup. And an elongated setup takes a heck of a long time to deal with. So hopefully, El Doggo says, stuff it, we're going to go straight onto site. Hopefully we get the pick or two we need. Then we start the plant, and then we hold the rotates back. But that's not going to happen as Terra takes out Palace. And then Awesomeish gets taken out as well. And oh no, the Kali is missing all the shots.
Oh, if Akali lost the firefight to him, that would have been Not a great moment, I think, for anyone's highlight reel. There's another one dropped out on Jacuzzi. It is the Kaid holding inside the bathroom. An operator who we've seen swung very well. And now it is all down to the big gun in the hands of Khalid. There's at least one dropped as they get a little bit excited and overextend themselves. Obviously, they don't have to at this point push at all. They know where the diffuser is. They have it cold on the ground, and they have an entire idea of where she is at this moment in time. A minute means she can rotate, she can pick it up, and she can try and get control. But as soon as she is, well, the aggression that has already been met against that balcony will be met again. Swinging with the pistol to try and get an idea of if anyone's close enough, but nobody's taking the bait just yet. The timer is ticking very slowly. It is all down to an operator who is rarely seen, I think it's fair to say.
It's exciting to see her. As you said, she's a rarity. And it's also a rarity to see her, you know, take a nap outside on Jacuzzi as well. As she generally, with a sniper rifle, gets to be the one that takes the opportunity to put others to sleep. That's not going to be, and that's going to be El Doggos taking their first L of the night. Hopefully their last, they'll be thinking, as they move down into the losers bracket. And Machine Soldiers moves up into round 2 of the winners bracket. A pretty convincing win there. Of course, Machine Soldiers were the ones to essentially choose Clubhouse between Oregon and Clubhouse as their map pick. And looks like Rakita will be Rakita and a couple of other players on their team with some really key operators there. They did a lot of push for their team, a lot of shove, and I think it came down to aggressive pinching for Machine Soldiers. I want to say that their coordination far outweighed El Doggos, and I think that's what gave them the win there.
Yeah, entirely. I mean, you could see, obviously, and you pointed out that El Doggos, they'd run some ideas, run some scrims, run some tactics, and they were trying to get them to work. But when the team that you're up against is one that obviously has a very, very tight-knit idea of how they want to take information out of you, and then they back that up with some pretty phenomenal gun skill leading in and a whole swathe of confidence, it becomes kind of hard when your push becomes a shove, and unfortunately your house isn't quite stable enough to stand up against it. It was an unfortunately expected result, I think it's fair to say. But as we can have a quick look at the bracket, we can kind of see how the rest of this day is started.
Absolutely. And we didn't see the Ying ban, but it actually didn't matter. And I was surprised that given that the way that they did push in on certain operators didn't sort of, you know, I guess they used flashes. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt here. They used a lot of flash grenades. So I was happy to see that they did use a lot of utility. I would like to see Rakita be a little bit more persistent on his frag grenade use, because obviously he was the frag grenade main of his team, so he needs to be a little bit more, I guess, on point with how he uses them, and if he runs into trouble, how you troubleshoot that, being able to use your grenades. So I would like to see that into the future. Again, I'm not entirely sure who the Kaid was for El Doggos. Absolute shout out to you. You did an amazing job, even though you weren't able to secure a round. I want you to know you did a fabulous job as the Kaid. But nonetheless, I thought that was a smashing match to start off with. And we'll see whether or not there's any other teams who've had another smashing run, another 7-0 maybe popped up, or is it just ours so far?